My name is James Stewart and I'm the Sheriff of Anoka County. At its core, a lot of the functions that a police department provides are also provided through a sheriff's office. The primary difference is that the police department serves the function of a municipality within certain boundaries. The sheriff's office is responsible for providing services to all of the county, and the sheriff is the chief elected law enforcement officer for the entire county. And so it's also an interesting dynamic to be a law enforcement officer that has to earn your job every 4 years by gaining enough votes to keep your position. That's kind of it in a nutshell, is the elected. That's why it's called a sheriff's office versus a sheriff's department, because it reports to an elected, and it ultimately always ends at an elected position, meaning a highway department or a police department or a sign department or whatever department usually report to a city administrator. The city administrator then reports to the city council or the mayor, and so it always ends at an elected official or an office, but in this case with the sheriff's office, the buck stops here. Anoka County, I think we're very uniquely situated in that our southern point is North Minneapolis. We rest right in between Ramsey County and Hennepin County, and then we kind of create a funnel shape that comes out of the Twin Cities, and we have urban on our southern end, suburbs through the middle, and rural on the north end. So we literally have the best of all worlds in Anoka County, as well as the challenges that come with each of those type of areas and providing services in all those different arenas. My perspective is very clear. I've made it known to all of our staff members that I'm not looking for call takers. I'm not looking for somebody to come in and push a steering wheel around for 8, 10, or 12 hours a day, but I want ambassadors in the community 24 hours a day. Our neighbors know who we are, our neighbors know what we do, and all of our neighbors and people out in the community know what we represent. And so I'm a firm believer that whatever we do on duty certainly reflects on our organization, but to try and get our staff to fully embrace that what we do off duty also reflects on not just our organization, but on our profession. And I have made it very clear that we will reward those that are engaged in positive community outreach efforts, and I'm excited to say that our staff has really embraced it in a variety of different charitable outreach ways, but also some of the, just from coaching and mentoring, those type of programs. Our staff really understands that they have an opportunity to make a difference, but it's what they do with that opportunity that's really redefining who they are. In a nutshell, I remember my very first day on the job. As a former Marine, I showed up with a pressed uniform, and all my brass was polished and my boots were polished, and took a lot of pride in who I was as a new deputy. And I remember walking through our courthouse and having, at that point, some of the old-timers or the veterans commenting that, oh, give him 6 months, he'll let go of that, meaning I would no longer be polished and pressed. And I thought it was kind of sad, because it was pretty clear that they didn't take pride in their uniforms, which, the way I was raised, it means that they didn't take pride in their organization. And so the interesting thing for me was to persevere. Whatever your value is, whatever your beliefs are, persevere. And if you have a positive attitude, don't let the negativity wear you down. Persevere. And that's that perseverance that I think, here we are 20-some years later. I've moved up through the ranks. I've held just about all the different positions, and have moved in a lot of different divisions and departments within our office. And all because I chose to persevere. And to this day, I continue to press my uniforms and polish my boots and polish my brass. And the interesting thing about perseverance is if you really adhere to it, it becomes the point that's contagious. And we've become an organization, not because of me, but because of a team of people who agreed we want to take pride in who we are as an organization, who we are as individuals, who we are as a profession, and really to try to raise the bar, not just in how we look, but in the standards of the services that we provide. And so here we are now, again, a couple of decades later, and I'd say the standard is to be pressed and polished and to care about who we are. I think there's definitely more to it than a catchy slogan that's been around for a while. And one of the perks I had as a new sheriff was getting to decide if I was going to redesign a cop car. And I've even joked a little bit about the reason I ran for sheriff is I wanted to create my own squad design, which is not accurate. But as we went through the process, that was a big part of it, is do we put to protect and serve on it? And because in some circles it might sound cliche, but I really don't think it is. And we do have to protect and serve on the car. We also have keepers of the county, which is protectors of the county on our hoods. And that isn't just a reminder to our staff who are operating it, but it's a reminder to the citizens that we are here to protect and serve, and we will do what it takes, if need be, including laying down our lives to protect our citizens. And a big part of that protect and serve expression that's been around for a long time, I think it's become kind of a mantra. In fact, I know of at least one police department in the metro that in the late 80s were scraping off the and serve. And I heard their officers say, "We're here to protect. If you want service, go to Perkins." That was what one of the officers said to me. That really kind of bothered me because clearly that meant nothing to them as an organization. We have to protect and serve on our cars for a reason, and a big part of the message I send to every one of our staff members and try to reinforce it regularly is to remind them there's two parts to that. We understand to protect, and they understand the oath they took that they will put themselves in harm's way for the citizens. But to serve is a big part of it. And our mission statement is to protect and serve the community in a manner that preserves the public trust. And I think in order to truly maintain the public trust, a big part of that comes from the service. And it's that service that we give to our citizens that helps us show that we care. Showing up and putting on your badge, again, that's an important facet, and that's an important thing to do. And I appreciate all of our law enforcement officers who are willing to put themselves out there every day. But that's just scratching the surface. Showing up isn't what's going to make a difference in our communities. And it is that service, and it's being engaged in the community. It's interacting with the public, and it's letting them know that we are here as public servants. And the word servant sometimes scares people and makes them feel inferior or subservient. At the end of the day, we're public servants. And if you're not comfortable with that, then you're probably not in the right line of work. And so we really embrace that role as an ambassador and as a servant to the citizens. When we look to hire new officers, we do a lot of the same things that law enforcement has historically done, but we've expanded on it. And by that I just mean, we do written tests, and we do oral interviews, and we do psychological evaluations, and we run through the thorough backgrounds, and we do all of the standard hiring processes after they've earned the right to even begin the testing process by getting the degree and passing the post exam. But one of the things that we've begun doing is really aggressively designing our backgrounds and our interview questions to look at the content of the character. We want to make sure we're hiring good people, because we know if we want good cops, we need to start with good people. And so we want a good resume, and we still pay attention to that, and we still, ideally, you're going to test well. However, much more important than a high test score to me is the content of the character and the individual. And so we're really focusing a lot of our front-end efforts in that area to make sure we're getting good people on board. This is certainly one of those careers where a lot of people can start on that path and not even realize that they're getting themselves into trouble or that they are in trouble. And we build a wall by putting one brick on that stack each day. And sometimes when it's real gradual and you put one brick on, you don't realize that suddenly you're isolating yourself by a wall that you're building. And so one of the things we do on the front end as we hire, we run everybody through a basic emotional survival for law enforcement class now. We issue them the book by Dr. Gilmartin. And but one of the other things we do is through that process is encourage our staff to look out for each other. If you're aware of somebody going through hard times, our sergeants also likewise, all of us are expected to pay attention. It's really what it comes down to. If you know somebody's going through some hard times, let's get them the help they need, even if it's just grabbing a cup of coffee and letting them vent for a while. That might be the starting point. But a big part of that can start to show, and the things we would, of course, watch for would be the short or abrupt change of behaviors. If we get citizens' complaints, those are the kind of things we're going to pay attention to. Any type of use of force incidents that we review all of those things. But if there's any type of pattern that's starting that show that officer is participating in negative or inappropriate behaviors, we want to address it right away.
All right. And
I think at a point that we realize we have a deputy or an officer that's starting to slip off the path, the first thing we would try to do is just meet with them, and coach and mentor. I should say the first thing we do is support. We want them to get back to who they are, and even more importantly, maybe even be better than who they were, and to set some new goals and to work to attain them. Our office is all about raising the bar and trying to set new standards. And so if we see somebody slipping off that path, it would probably start with that support, coaching, mentoring. If it's starting down a disciplinary path where because of their behaviors, then that's another option. And we'll certainly, we look at whether they need additional training. Is there a formal discipline that needs to happen? Are there investigations related to that? We're going to do follow-up monitoring. We have things we call a performance improvement plan. If there's a pattern of even just negative attitudes or poor behaviors, we will put them on a plan that just says, here's the vision, here's the goals, here's our expectation, and here's what we expect you to do in the future. And if you don't meet those expectations, then there will be ramifications. And sometimes that might be a matter of taking them out of a specialty unit or a specialty role, or it might be reassigning them to a position that will allow them an opportunity to maybe find new ways to shine. Because clearly, if they're not shining or not feeling fulfilled in their current position, then we owe it to them and the citizens to explore what is going to make them a better deputy. Those who choose to go into law enforcement as a job are always less fulfilled and don't do as good of a job in delivering it. But I think, from my own experience, I knew when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, I wanted to either be a cop or an astronaut. And then I learned about the requirements for an astronaut, and I went down the law enforcement path, and I've loved it ever since. And I do think that law enforcement is a calling. And I think a big part of any success is knowing and listening for what is your calling in your life and where are you supposed to be, and whatever you're doing to try and do it with excellence. I've told all of my kids, I don't care if you're a fry cook at Burger King or you're the President of the United States, if you commit to doing it right and you remember who you work for, then I couldn't be more proud of you. And so I do think law enforcement is a calling, and I think the other part of that, what I say to new people coming into the line of work, is be mindful of who's come before us, lay down the foundation, evaluate what do you like about what's been done, and expand on it. Also analyze and identify what don't you like about the history of the organization, and what can you do to fix it. Integrity is paramount, and the role of ambassadors cannot be emphasized enough. It's one thing to be an officer who is engaged, again, during the course of your duty, doing the right thing and interacting positively, but it's another thing to recognize that 24 hours a day you have an opportunity to make a difference in your communities, and it starts before you put on the badge. If you're a prospect looking to get into law enforcement, then be that person that the community wants to put a badge on. It's not just a chief that has you raise your right hand and swear an oath, but it really is an oath to a community.